Okay, so it's Midem 2013, day 2 of the conference, and I'm here with Chris Wiltsee, who is the head of business development for BandPage. So hi, Chris, and thanks for joining me.
Hey there. Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
All right, so we're continuing our series talking about some of the things that we've seen here at Midem, but also we're going to do a big catch-up on BandPage as well and see how things are going and what's happening at the company.
Great.
So let's start with, you just came off a panel that was all about APIs, SDKs, and sort of the way that music is being connected by these new tools.
Right.
So how did that work out? Did you take anything in particular away from that you didn't expect?
That I didn't expect. It was a good conversation.
Yeah.
We spoke a lot about the way that the digital music space is evolving, and obviously APIs are a huge part of that ecosystem and environment. And essentially, in our particular case, an API allowed us to get into the market. So in this case, it was a Facebook API that we built the BandPage application as a Facebook app. And at that time, there was no easy way or elegant way for a band to market themselves on Facebook. So 3 years ago, they were still pointing to MySpace, even though the fans had all, for the most part, left.
Yeah.
In that instance, our founders did a beautiful job on executing a really good app, and so we just had a rocket ride of a takeoff. And so on our second anniversary at South by Southwest, we I think announced that it was maybe 175,000 bands, and then I guess no, that was our first year. Sorry, our second year we announced 500,000 bands. And so a real rocket ride. One of the things we talked about in the panel, and there was a lot of interest about BandPage because of the vulnerability. At the same time, in developing to a single platform, it was sort of like a devil's bargain, I suppose. Where we had a tremendous opportunity, and when we grew accordingly, and it afforded us an amazing amount of scale in a short amount of time. And part of that was identifying a real need, executing well, and on a huge platform. But when Facebook changed directions and ushered in the timeline, ostensibly to improve the site in terms of engagement and posting, creating the ticker, and being able to create many new types of advertising revenue, all kinds of reasons why they made that change. Developers like us took a back seat.
Sure.
And so for us, what that meant was a big hit to the traffic. We're still on Facebook. We're still a top 10 music app on Facebook, but the traffic levels are significantly reduced. And so we talked on the panel about dependencies, how to control and minimize risk, how companies work together, what are some optimal arrangements, that kind of thing. I think to do it again, would we do it any different? I honestly don't think we would do it any different. It would have been better if we had been ready to roll out our next sets of tools
right away,
because we were frankly well down the path of developing our own APIs so that we could get the BandPage into other platforms and share the BandPage across the web and mobile. But the timeline shift essentially caught us before we were ready. It takes a while to develop these things, and we really were committed to quality, the same quality for the bands that we serve, that we had on Facebook, which frankly quality I think is what allowed us to be so successful there. We had the most elegant app, and that's why Beyonce and Kanye West and a bunch of top artists have used BandPage. We wanted to have that same set of tools. So the same, I guess, vulnerability that that hurt us when the timeline came out is the API is also what is saving BandPage. And so when we think about where we're headed, it is an API-driven strategy, and this says a lot about what that panel was about. Is this is really the currency, the rocket fuel that is driving innovation and opportunity in the music space. So we launched three API releases in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
The first one we rolled out to our bands, and we basically gave them their band page that they could use off of Facebook. And so they could essentially, we widgetized it, and they could take pieces of it, and so they could replace maybe the player or the tour dates, power the player, the tour dates, or the bio, or any other section of their website with the band page. And that way, when they update their band page, it'll update to their website, update to Facebook, and anywhere else it's integrated.
Yeah.
And we saw really good adoption of that. We have about 100,000 or so of those integrations out now across the web, which is incredible, for an app that was on one platform.
Absolutely.
To now be across, so many artist-controlled properties was great. And so
awesome.
we spent a lot of time developing what we feel are best in class, the better widget, if you will. It's very elegant, very scalable, totally customizable, so that it looks native for any site. The second release was again an API product, but this one was for the partner ecosystem, and that release is called BandPage Connect, and we released it with 12 partners from around the globe in different sectors of the music ecosystem. One of them was Midem, so we're proud to power artist profiles for the Midem Music Festival, which is really exciting. WordPress, Guitar Center, use it for a singer-songwriter competition, and Conduit Mobile is another one, which is cool. They have a great product for bands if they want a mobile app, to be able to develop a mobile app, get it into the Android or iPhone stores, and market it that way. Now you can go to the Conduit landing page, connect your band page with one click, and then within a second or two, you come to the app editor screen for Conduit, and your app is fully loaded with all your tour dates, your videos, your photos, etc. And so the only thing left to do is just tinker with the styling, and you're out the door and running. And so those are some of the uses that we've seen already, and that's where the artist opts in, connects their band page to some service or festival. Yeah. And then last week we had a huge announcement, which we're really proud to make, of another type of partner integration we announced with Pandora. And in that case, we worked closely with Pandora to develop a concert calendar. And so this is a really great service where I'll take mine, for instance. I've created a maximum amount of stations based on artists that I like. I've also, as I'm listening to Pandora stations, I thumbs up all the songs and bands that I like. So Pandora has a huge sense of my taste and all these bands, hundreds and hundreds of bands. And then what we do is we match that against the user's geolocation and serve up this concert listing unique to the user's taste and location in the world, and serve up a beautiful graphical concert listing. Nice. And they can see all the bands that they actually like and when they're coming to town. And so that's a platform level integration where essentially all of the bands in our system are pulling into that. And the way that a band on the BandPage side manages all of this stuff, whether it's their own content on their own properties like their website or blog, or things they've opted into like Conduit Mobile, or Pledge Music and they're doing a fan funding thing, or something like the Pandora Concert Calendar is a Connect Center in our dashboards where they just manage those things.
And that's it's clear that a lot of streaming services like Pandora are absolutely dying to find alternative ways to engage the public that use the data that they have on them, and this is one of the uses, I guess.
So many services, so many platforms, whether it's festivals or streaming services or ticketing sites, or go on and on. They have a need for artist profiles. And sourcing those is actually a big job. And so there are databases you can license that essentially have static artist information. But the problem is they're very static. And the thing that we're excited to bring to the market and to the ecosystem is a way for the artist to own that profile, to be able to curate that profile, to update it at any time, and do these integrations with platforms like Pandora and others. get the artist inside those walled gardens and now be able to choose the photo that represents them, the bio that represents them, bring in their tour dates, bring in additional content than is there today, create a more robust picture of who that artist is.
Absolutely, and in a way, like as much as the change in the Facebook timeline settings and how that affected, the user numbers of the company, as much as it was, of course, probably scary if you were experiencing it. At the same time, it probably forced the company to really think outside the box and look at all these options and look at, B2B on a small scale, B2B on a large scale, like the Pandora deal, and really force itself to go one step beyond what was just Facebook, because of course that traffic came quickly and it came relatively easily because it was the best tool out there for bands to promote themselves, and maybe those aspects wouldn't have been thought of as much if the success had continued the way it had.
Like I said, we were pretty well down that path of readying ourselves for broad distribution and not being reliant on a platform, and that message came through again and again on the panel is the risks inherent. That said, when your traffic gets so affected in the way that it did for us, it certainly sharpens your focus, and it had that effect, and so it made us move quickly. One of the things that we have been able to do, though, because of our, besides being able to scale so fast and get such a massive user base, now we've got this tool set that is really optimized. So, these content widgets that a band can drop onto their website, for instance, or that'll show up on, Midem's festival site. The player, for instance, or the photo gallery or the events listings, each piece of content, whether it's a photo or an event or a track, can be shared, can be tagged, in ways that will send something to the Facebook ticker and timeline. You can send it to Twitter, to Tumblr. It's totally connected to the open graph and to the social web. And so now what's exciting, I think, and very available, really available for free through our tools to any band is that tension that has existed for bands. Do I focus on my own property, my .com, or do I focus on marketing myself on these big social platforms? Kind of the same tension we had as a company. That tension no longer exists, and so now they can focus on their own properties, for instance, but each piece of content is driving awareness to those social platforms. It's posting to Twitter, it's posting to Facebook, and when we launched that API tool to the bands, and they started adopting the content onto their own properties, their .coms and blogs, we saw a 3x jump in open graph activities within 2 weeks. Just a massive spike, and so that's really exciting.
It shows that you're doing the right thing on that front.
And it's good. It's good for the bands, and so
and for any platform that makes a major change, to see that sort of engagement go skyrocket like that is always a good sign. And I think Next Big Sound had a report like a few weeks ago about the top streaming, social streaming site kind of thing, and SoundCloud was another company that did really well with the Next. You saw the jump between pre-Next and post-Next, and it was like three times as much.
It's a stunning graph. I saw that when they first sent it out, and that was the slide. Wow.
So that shows how much really improving on the simplicity of the offering and the portability of it is really to create a network effect and optimize opportunities for content to be shared is what it's all about. And finally, let's talk about we're talking about territoriality, and of course BandPage is present everywhere. But is there a particular focus for you guys to try and expand in certain territories rather than others?
So as a result of growing on the Facebook platform, we were blessed with the sort of total adoption across territories. And so we're a US-based company, headquarters in San Francisco. About half of our bands are in the US, but the rest are distributed around the world. So, top countries are like Canada, Germany, France, UK, Mexico, Brazil, but also Asia, Middle East. It's really all over, and our users have that same users in this case being bands,
Yeah.
the same kind of distribution. So, huge amount of the top bands use us, huge amount of the sort of mid-tier transactional touring bands use us, and then hundreds of thousands of aspiring and emerging bands from around the world in every genre. And so, what we're trying to focus on is, again, playing this role in the music ecosystem where for any service, again, whether it's a streaming service or a ticketing platform or a festival site or a blog, music reviewing service, anything where they have artist content and profiles to allow the artists to be in charge of curating their profile, and through a really simple integration, we can afford that ability to any developer. So that's really what it's all about, is just helping to empower the ecosystem with this great artist content that puts more control into the artist's hands. And ultimately, I think there's going to be great revenue opportunities for the artist as a result, because what you're doing is you're bringing the fan and the artist closer together across the social web and on mobile. And so transactional opportunities will go along with that. And so that'll float all boats, starting with the artist, but also for the platform and for the BandPage too, thinking about our long-term sustainability.
Absolutely. And so let's finish by talking about the next couple of days of Midem. Is there anything in particular that you're excited about, or just having meetings back to back without being able to see anything?
Yeah, I would love to clone myself. Fortunately, we sent a few of us. But so we're spreading out, and the days here at Midem are incredible, and sleep is probably the most scarce commodity. Partially due to the time zone difference, but mostly just because it starts early and it ends really late. And so it's a combination of back-to-back meetings, sneaking out for an occasional panel discussion that you can't miss. Doing things like this is exciting. And then, of course, in the evenings, just going to as many functions and social environments. And frankly, I think that, what you hear, said a lot is, that's at least as important, is that ad hoc. This is an industry that works hard but also plays hard, and a lot of those relationships that we built, last year being here, for instance, turned into deals this year. Our calendars were way more packed this year than they were last year, and so there's a huge snowball effect, and Midem's been incredibly good for business, and that's why we were really eager and excited to work closely with Midem this year in terms of powering the artist profiles, but also being a sponsor and being involved at a lot of levels.
That's great. Well, Chris, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the Midem.
Thank you. Appreciate it.